Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel off the underside. Hope we're all good. We've got a very special live tonight. It's a man who is currently doing a podcast called For the Crew podcast over in America for the MLS team Columbus Crew, and we're here to talk about current Columbus Crew manager Wilfried Nancy. First of all, Matt, how are you getting on? How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. Excited to talk about this. Not excited about the prospect of Nancy leaving, but yeah, good to have a conversation with a fan from across the pond.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks very much for coming on. So yeah, pretty much let's just start with yourself, mate. Obviously, you've got the podcast. How long have you been a Columbus Crew fan, and how did it all begin?
I've been a Crew fan since 2003. I lived in Atlanta. It's in Georgia, and moved to Columbus. I was in middle school, and right away found out there was a pro team and latched onto it instantly. I've been to probably about 300 games since then, and yeah,
Quite a while then.
yeah, and but yeah, so yeah, I right when I found out about the team, I've been just all about it. I started this podcast about a year ago now, and I think we've done a 76, 77 episodes in that year, and yeah.
Pretty much the same with us. Just started a year ago, and it's been a it's been the best thing I've ever done, Matt. To be honest with you, starting this podcast, and it's a great pastime, and obviously it's a passion that we both clearly share. So, well done on starting it, mate. So we're here to talk about Wilfried Nancy.
Yeah.
He's been at the club now for 3 years. We're now in 2022. Obviously, there's big speculation at the moment that he's going to be joining Celtic in Scotland. First of all, could you tell us a wee bit about his tactical style? What kind of, if he does join Celtic, what can we expect from his tactics?
Yeah, it's very possession oriented. He normally, we'll say it sets up in a 3-4-3, but it doesn't always look like that. You'll see both the outside back three move into the final third. You'll see interchanging between the front three. He's very much about players being able to adapt to the situation. He also is okay with putting players in positions that they're not normally used to. So our back three this past season consisted of a guy who was a right back, a guy who was a left back, and a guy who was a defensive midfielder, and they were our back three. So he really wants people to be adaptable to whatever he needs them to do. He also is very much about overloads in the final third, and he likes being able to control the game with the ball, and both defensively and offensively, holding the ball is a big part of his game.
And what about developing players and stuff? Have you noticed a big change since he's come in?
He's excellent. When he came in, our goalkeeper Patrick Schulte, our starting right back Mo Farsi, our starting center back right now Sean Zawaski, they all came from our reserve team. None of them were first teamers at the time. He does a really good job of bringing in players. He trusts young players when they're ready. We have a homegrown player named Taha Habroon who's 19, and towards the second half of the year he got a lot more time. He's definitely all about bringing in players. He's not afraid to play a young player if he thinks they're better than the person who's in front of them.
Well, that's good to hear, because we do talk about this in the podcast quite a bit, how not a lot of young Scottish players are coming through to the club. So that is good to hear, mate. What about his spending? Have you bought some good players in?
Yeah, well, it's interesting the way that, I don't know if it works the same way with Celtic, but he works a lot with our general manager, which was when he came in, it was Tim Bezbachenko. Now it's Issa Tall. And about 5 years ago, we got new ownership as well. And so the team has spent, we spent a lot on Cucho Hernandez. I think it was about 10 million we spent on him. and he's now playing at Real Betis. We brought in Lucas Zelarayan before that, but with Nancy, it's not necessarily about spending big; it's about spending smart. And before Issa Tall came in with Tim Despachenko, he didn't really make a whole lot of misses. And Crew fans are kind of back and forth about it, but with the new GM, we're not so sure. But I wouldn't put that on Nancy. I think Nancy's very smart with the players he brings in.
And what kind of personality is he, mate? Because obviously, down the years, we've had all different types of personalities at Celtic. And
yeah,
is he? You know, if things are going wrong, is he want to kind of scream at the players and that, obviously, or what about in interviews and stuff? Is he intense in interviews, or is he quite calm?
He's a pretty calm guy, like at his core. But he's not afraid to call things out. I don't know if you've seen anything recently. He was not a fan of the way that we did a playoff structure in MLS this past year, or the last 3 years, really. And he's not afraid to call that out in the press. He doesn't call out his players, really. He takes a lot of that on himself if things go wrong. He's not going to throw anyone under the bus. But he's a guy who'll tell it like it is.
So obviously you've had quite a wee bit of success under him as well. You've won a couple of cups and stuff. Do you put that solely down to Nancy, or is it like?
I think the past 3 years have been like a kind of a perfect storm for the team, both with players in that have already been here who were built up through our academy system, having a good general manager. We just had one of our players just retired, who, in a lot of our opinions, is the best center midfielder to ever play in our league. But the success came when Nancy came. Before we were doing well, we would get far in playoffs, or we'd we would still look. Every coach we've had for the past 20 years has made a final at some point. But Nancy brought something a little different to the team, to where we started expecting wins instead of just, if it happened, it was great. He's a guy who, with the way that he talks in the press, the way that he brings his players up, that you go into games expecting to win every game. And that doesn't, with MLS, it's a little different than a lot of places in Europe, where there's not any teams that are like quote unquote super teams. There's no Celtics, there's no Rangers, there's no Manchester Cities, Arsenals. The team in the league that has the most titles, I think, has 6 in the 30 years that the league's been around. So the success of a team is usually very, very short, and our success came when Nancy came.
Over here, Matt. I'll be honest with you. A lot of Celtic fans don't want Nancy.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
There's a guy called Knutsen, who is the manager of Bodo Glimt in Norway, who a lot of people are wanting. And it's basically just because of, his track record. He's won a lot more trophies than Nancy and stuff like that. I know Nancy's still a relatively new head coach, which it will be at Celtic for the first time in history, I believe, as well. A head coach, not a manager. What would you say to the Celtic fans that are sceptical of him right now?
I would say trust it. He's a guy that I think it's been 4 years of being a head coach, 3 with the Crew and 1 with Montreal before that. Before that, he was an academy coach, and he kind of built his way up. But he knows what he's doing. I know there's been some skeptical fans with coaches coming out of MLS. Bob Bradley when he went to Swansea. Jesse Marsh with Leeds. I think he's a better coach than both of them. I will be very surprised, honestly, if his career doesn't take him to a top 5 league, honestly, eventually. Yeah.
Well, that's high praise, mate. That's high praise.
Yeah.
Good to hear, though. What about, obviously, you spoke about how there's no massive clubs in MLS, as in terms of winning trophy after trophy every season. obviously Celtic are renowned for winning trophies, mate.
Yeah.
Winning trebles and stuff like that. How do you think Nancy will handle the pressure of must win every week?
I think he'll handle it fine, honestly. I'll preface that with I don't want him to leave, so I hope he doesn't. I hope something happens where he stays. But I mean, I the big reason that I've seen some people talk about he has like a 1.8 points average in MLS, somewhere around there. In Major League Soccer, that's very high because of the parity of the league. I think the Crew's won it twice in the last 5 years. And I don't think any other team has done that in the past 7 or 8. But I think he'll handle the pressure fine. I think as long as he has the backing of, I guess, the ownership there. I don't know what I've seen back in a lot of pros and cons with Celtic fans about the ownership right now. But I think he's a guy that if he has the backing of whoever is helping him build his team, he'll build a great team for you guys, and you guys will enjoy the results on the field as well.
The thing is, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm skeptical, and it's not because the MLS, because I've got total respect for MLS. You know, we had Ange Postecoglou beforehand who won trophies in Australia and Japan, and there was a lot of skepticism around there. But you know, it was like, you know, the guy won loads of trophies everywhere he went, and obviously Scottish football gets bashed up outside of Scotland, especially in England and stuff like that. So I'm no one for you know, bashing the MLS in any way. What I'm skeptical of is last season, mate. You finished 7th, is that right?
Yeah.
What happened last season?
I wouldn't honestly put it on Nancy. There was a change in our general manager, and we lost probably the best player we've ever had in the league with Cucho Hernandez. We lost him. We didn't really replace him. We had multiple injuries, and I don't like bashing him, but I don't think Issa Tull is the right guy for us as a GM, and I think that hurt. Once Tim Despachenko, who was our GM before, is now working with Bournemouth, and you can see where they're at right now in the EPL. They're doing pretty well. He brought in Nancy. He brought in a lot of pieces, and once he left, a lot of those pieces started leaving. And in my opinion, we wouldn't have done it as well as we did if we didn't have Nancy. I think it would have been probably worse. But he is a guy who took what we had. And so if you looked at last year, we finished what? We finished second, I think. Not the year before last year.
Yeah.
For us last year, the season just ended, so I'm looking at last year as the season before. But the difference was like a negative 20 goal differential difference than the year before. We had a bigger defensive issues. Our starting defender was out for the whole year. All these little things that happened, I wouldn't put him on Nancy. Nancy's, I think, the reason that we even did as well as we did. And I think with a team like Celtic, who probably has a little bit more financial backing, I guess, he'll be able to. I don't know if you know much about MLS, but the roster structure is really hard to structure around when you have pieces missing, like through injury and players. The schedule is kind of opposite of Europe, to where our season starts in the winter and the summer is the middle of the year. So all the teams that buy players in our off season is in the middle of the year for Celtic. So like Celtic, you guys finish your season in like what, May?
Yeah.
And so you're buying players there, and so like the year before we lost Aiden Morris in the middle of the year. We lost Cucho Hernandez in January, 2 weeks before the season started, and so we weren't able to replace him. And all those little things, I think, added up to us not doing as well as we were hoping we'd do this year. But I think a lot of that is nothing to do with Nancy.
Fair enough. Guys, get your questions in if you've got any questions for Matt, I'll get to yours in a wee second, David. I've just got another question here to ask Matt. And basically, is there any players that you can see, if it does happen, because we're obviously still talking hypothetically here, but if Nancy does go to Celtic, is there any players you can see him taking either from Columbus or from the MLS in general?
We have been having that conversation the last couple of days. I wouldn't be surprised if Steven Moreira goes. He is traditionally a right back, but he played right center back for us. He plays for Cape Verde. He's French. He still has technically another year. We have like another option year for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nancy tries to take him. I also don't want him to, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to make a move for Sean Zawatsky as well. He is a homegrown player for Columbus. He grew up in Ohio, and he's a very versatile player. A lot of us call him like our Swiss Army knife. He can play outside. He can play wing back on left side or the right side. He can play any part of the back line. He can play any part of the center midfield. When we had a red card for our keeper and didn't have a backup keeper, he played goalkeeper for us as well.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Don't put him in goal. but he's another guy that Nancy probably for the crew. He's the number one guy on our team sheet, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes from. I would hope that he'd want to stay for his hometown team, but you never know.
Excellent, because especially the first guy you mentioned, because I think we do need a right back at the moment. We've got, I don't know if you know Alistair Johnston in Canadian International.
Oh yeah, and he used to play in MLS as well.
He did, mate. Yep, and he's injured.
I think he played a year with Nancy.
Oh, did he?
Oh, at Montreal, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a good connection as well there then. But he's injured at the moment, so we've got a makeshift right back at the moment who a lot of fans aren't happy with, and that maybe the body you mentioned at the start, that would be a good fit then.
Yeah, like I said, I hope he doesn't take anyone from us if he does leave. But I mean, most coaches when they go to a new club, they usually try to bring someone with them.
We've got a comment here from David Grant. David said, "I'm not saying Wilfried Nancy is not a very capable manager. I'm just wondering how managing in the MLS in America he can adapt his style into the Scottish game."
What would you say is like the style of play in Scotland? I don't know much about Scotland past Rangers and Celtic. I know like Aberdeen and Hibs and a few other of the clubs, but I don't really know like if there's a overarching style of play.
The style of play in Scotland, I would suggest, is it's a fast-paced game. There's no the best of quality, to be honest with you, mate. Especially this season, the quality isn't great, even at Celtic and Rangers. But what the style of play will be fast-paced. It'll be, you don't get a minute on the ball, basically. You don't get, and it's physical as well, But I would definitely say it's more kind of, even we have quite a lot of guests on the show who have played in Scotland and in England. And even though the quality is better in England, a lot of the guests will say you get a lot more time on the ball in England and stuff. So yeah, basically that's it, mate. How do you think you'll cope with that? All right.
I think that's fair. That the MLS, across the league, you probably get more time on the ball than you would in some of the top teams in Europe. But again, I think Nancy does it a little bit differently. I think he enjoys having his team have to play through pressure in the back. So whoever's in the back line has to be good on the ball. They have to be able to dribble the ball. They have to be able to pass well. And I think at Celtic, like I said before, I think Nancy will probably bring a lot of the fans who are skeptical over to his side.
Since Brendan Rodgers left Celtic, I don't know if you've seen the circumstances how he left, but basically what happened was not had the best of start to the season, and it was a Monday, and basically what happened was he left the club. He basically said to the board, we need to sort this out or I'll just go, and the board said, well, we'll accept your resignation then. So, and then after that, Celtic's owner, Dermot Desmond, our majority shareholder, should I say, he came out with a big statement, and it was very, very critical of Brendan Rodgers. You know, it was one of the biggest statements. That I've
This
seen.
is his second time with the club, right?
Yep. He left first time to go to Leicester City. Then he came
Mhm.
back a few years later, and obviously,
Yeah.
he did have success in the last few years, mate. But obviously, like I say, not the best start to this season. But the statement that Dermot Desmond made has shocked a lot of people in Scotland. So one of the things that Celtic fans are talking about for the next manager is the Celtic board want to basically control everything, as we call it here in Scotland. I don't know if they call it anywhere else, actually. A yes man. So basically,
Yeah.
So do you think Wilfried Nancy will accept that? If the board try and intervene in his style of play, his coaching?
So I guess tell me more about what's your view of the board at Celtic right now?
Well, we were just in Europe there. We were in so every year when this year Celtic won the league last season. Sorry, right? So that took us into Champions League qualifiers. So what happened was we've lost a lot of players over the last season. We lost Nicholas Kuhn, who went to Como for £16 million. In January beforehand, we lost Kyogo Furuhashi for £10 million to go to Rennes. So there was money coming in, and Celtic churn in money year after year. For the qualifiers this season, like I say, we lost those players, and we played a team who were basically just the level was so poor, and we actually lost those qualifiers. And it's a lot of Celtic fans are very, very critical of the board because we haven't reinvested that money.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I do think after the qualifiers, though, we did spend the money to improve in Scotland, right? But it was just too late for the qualifiers. So
that sounds like our season.
Was that?
That sounds like our season.
Is it?
Yeah.
So basically, my opinion of the board is they acted too late, and there's been a big, massive thing here with Celtic, mate. All the Celtic media, Celtic fan base have all got together, put out statements and stuff, just basically saying a vote of no confidence against the Celtic board. So yeah, there's a lot of criticism for them, and I'm basically one of them. I don't think they've reinvested the money, to be honest. So that's my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think he will need the support of the board to do well. I don't honestly for me, any coach, any manager, anywhere needs to have the support of their ownership, whoever's above them, to do well. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. So in that case, I'm not sure how that will go. I feel like if they have done their due diligence on Nancy, looked at what he does, what he'll need to succeed, and they give him that, he'll blow you guys away with what he can do. If they don't, the way his tactics work aren't plug and play. It's something that takes some time to implement in the team. Even with the crew, it was like that. But if he can do what he knows he needs to do to succeed, he'll do well. But it sounds to me like the issues at Celtic goes further than who's going to be the manager.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But what basically happened with Brendan Rodgers as well was, which I forgot to mention to you there, was this was his last year on his contract. So that, by the way, I'm just going here what Dermot Desmond said in that statement. So, a lot of people don't believe what Dermot Desmond said, but I'll just go take his word for it. But basically, before the start of the season, he spoke to Brendan Rodgers and wanted to discuss a new contract. And Brendan Rodgers said, no, I need to have some time to think about it. So my opinion is they never backed him because he would refuse to speak about the contract. So they never gave him the money because, why would you give a manager money who could potentially just leave within a year? So I think that's been a big part of it, Matt.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if you guys think that whoever will come in is going to be backed by the board, if it's Nancy, I think he'll succeed.
Isn't it? Yeah. What do you think the biggest loss will be when Nancy leaves, like for your club and stuff?
Oh, that's a big one. I think it's gonna, unless we can get someone of equal quality, I think it's probably going to be a down year next year. I think it's not even just what he brings in terms of tactics. I think the atmosphere he brings to the team. I think his personality, the players have bought into his system pretty well, and the way that the roster right now is structured for us, it's structured to fit his system. If he leaves and we get a guy who's like, hey, we're going to play a 4-4-2, we don't have the team for it. So there's going to be a lot of turnover of the team. So it's going to be, I think there might be a little bit of, I'll say there'll be a big backlash from the fan base if he leaves.
Do you think that Nancy's quite an ambitious guy though as well? Do you think he's decided?
Yeah, he. I mean, yeah, when we won, let me see if I might even have it here. When we won MLS Cup, he said right after the game was done, he was talking to the press and he used the quote, "Impossible is an opinion," and that's kind of where he's at with the way he thinks about the game. Is like he's like, I can do whatever I feel like I can do, and if he's like, if I could be ambitious, then I can make it to wherever I want to be. So like, even when I don't know if they do this in Europe, I'm guessing they don't. I think it's a very American thing, but they give like rings to the players when they win a championship, and they actually put.
We don't do that.
Yeah, they even put. I don't know if you can see it.
I can see it. Yeah.
They even put "impossible" as an opinion on the ring.
Oh,
like, that's his philosophy with life, basically. And so I think in terms of ambitions, he backs himself wherever he is.
That's good, mate. I mean, like I said to you, I'm not skeptical though, because I don't want a manager who has got loads of potential and one day will be this fantastic manager. We need a manager to come in right now because we're actually.
I think he's a fantastic manager now. I think that the only thing with potential for him is getting the opportunities to show at higher levels that he can do it. And if he can't get those opportunities, he's never going to be able to show it.
That's very true. That is very true. And at the moment, we are actually 7 points behind Hearts at the top of the Premier League. So, he's got a fight in his hands to get. Obviously, the Hearts have played an extra game though. But I think he has got a fight in his hands this season. Rangers haven't started well either, but they've just recently got a new manager.
Who's at Rangers now?
It's a guy called Danny Roll. He was at Sheffield Wednesday, and then he left because obviously they've got a lot of financial problems and stuff. So he left there, but now he's in charge of Rangers. And yeah, but it's exciting times, mate. Anyway, you've made me think, especially with I like the impossible as an opinion thing. I really do. I mean, I remember when Ange Postecoglou first came into Celtic, and I was watching documentaries about him. Like I said, there was a lot of skepticism around him. And I was watching documentaries on him, and when he was Australian manager, he got asked, "What's your ambition?" And he said, "I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but I want to win a World Cup." And even if that is a ridiculous thing to think, it's the fact that he's even thought about that, and the fact that Nancy is thinking, impossible, it's just an opinion. I love to hear that. Yeah.
Like I see a lot of fans when someone like Ange would say that about Australia, that like, oh, this guy's crazy. What he needs to think smaller. It's like, why would you think smaller? Like, what's the point of thinking smaller? Like, if you want a coach who's like, I'm gonna be the best manager wherever I am, and that's Nancy.
So what's your opinion? Is he going to come to Scotland, turn it around, shake everything up, win games, score goals, and then get to one of these big leagues you think he'll get to?
I mean, I don't know how long that will take for him. I mean, he's if he does get to Celtic, he did it within 5 years of being a coach. And especially for this season, I think it's not the greatest situation for him because of where Celtic is right now, with Hearts being, what you said, 7 points clear. And I, like I was saying earlier, with the way that he might very easily come in and be like, I'm not going to change a whole lot this year. I'm going to do what we need to do to win. And then once the offseason comes, I'll put in my own ideas. That's probably what he should do. I don't know if that's what he will do. But the way that he sets up his team, like I said earlier, it takes time. And it doesn't feel like right now Celtic has time. if they want to win another title. So I don't even know if you'll see the real, if he does end up there, I don't know if you'll see the real way of Nancy's philosophy until the following season. I think this season probably will just be win at all costs kind of thing. Yeah.
Have you guys got a big rivalry over there? Like Columbus Crew?
With
Who's
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, we have a rivalry called Hell is Real. And
really?
it's called that because there's a like a billboard on the highway in between the two cities that's just this big billboard that says Hell is Real. And ever since then we use that as the title for the rivalry. I think it's the best rivalry in American soccer or football. Yeah.
All right, okay. Do you know much about the Celtic Rangers derby?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's my opinion top 5 in the world. Like it's yeah.
It's very intense, mate. It can split families and everything in this country. But obviously, it's not just the football side of things. There's also a religious side of things here in this country as well. So how do you think he'll thrive on that rivalry with Rangers? Because obviously, America's a huge country, mate. You know, Ohio's massive itself. This is a goldfish bowl here in Scotland. How do you think that Nancy will fare in that goldfish bowl and the Glasgow derby?
It's hard for me to not say he'll thrive in any of these questions, but I'd say that because like I said, since 2003, I think he's the best coach we've ever had. But he definitely understood what it meant for Columbus fans whenever he played Cincinnati. Like he knew like the players need to know what this is about for the cities. The way he talked in the press, he knows that like, hey, this is important not just because we need 3 points, but because like this is like kind of life or death for the cities. Like this is the for the next year, this is bragging rights. This is who's the best team. Honestly, for the last few years, it's really been who's the best team in the league. These Columbus and Cincinnati have both been towards the top for the last 3 years until this past year for Columbus. Yeah, I think he'll understand what it means, especially when you come up against Rangers, and I think he'll understand that pretty well.
Just going to ask anybody if you get any questions, get them in. We've only got a couple more minutes to go here before we let Matt go. If anybody's got any questions about Nancy or anything else, put them in the comments. Next season, mate. Obviously, you said that the season's just ended in MLS there.
Yeah.
What's your hopes from
the playoffs are still going for some teams, but it's done for Columbus.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your hopes for next season then?
I hope that our general manager Issa Tall can kind of prove some people wrong about his role in the team. If Nancy does leave, I hope that he can show that we can keep the success that we had the last few years. I'm very skeptical with him. I'm one of the fans that don't think he's the guy for us right now in terms of bringing the team to the next era if Nancy does leave. If he does stay, I want Nancy to be able to bring in the players that he wants. And if he does that, I think we'll have every chance to win the league again next year.
Well, it's looking like he's going to leave. It's just reports here in Scotland and the UK, but I did see a Canadian journalist say yesterday that there's actually been no contact between the clubs.
Yeah, one of the Crew journalists I saw said the same thing. I saw that they were allowing him to speak to the club, but I hadn't seen anything with actual conversations between the two of them yet.
And you know what social media is like as well. I seen pictures of Nancy, and he was in an airport.
At the airport,
people are saying, "Oh, he was flying to London and that," but you know what these things are like, Matt. That could have been like 3 years old or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or he could have. Season's over. He could have been flying back to Paris to go home to see family.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, looks like that's us, mate. Thanks very much for coming on, Matt. All the best with the podcast, mate. If you need anything European wise, mate, give me a shout. I'll come on, and if you can all understand my thick Scottish accent, have I been all right? Have you understood?
Yeah, I've understood everything you've said.
Good man. Thanks very much, Matt. All the best. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.